Hello and welcome to the CivilTalk Podcast. I'm your host, Tapacio Althouse. If you're new to the show, this is where we explore civility and social emotional learning with esteemed guests, expert insights, and practical advice to help people navigate the world. Today on the CivilTalk Podcast, we're doing something special. We're going behind the scenes. I'm joined today by the three engineers who helped bring the CivilTalk platform to life: Mike Castor, Nick Nartaro, and Mike Fara. These are the minds who didn't just write the code, they helped shape the heart of this platform, from architecting the humanity layer to building intuitive prompt systems to engineering for emotion tagging and role-based collaboration. They've played a pivotal role in turning vision into function. We'll take a close look at how CivilTalk and ORGtalk are designed to strengthen organizational emotional intelligence, to helping teams and groups build trust, align on mission, and thrive in an AI world. So today, whether you're a business owner, executive, leader, organizational thinker, or just curious about the future of human AI collaboration, this will be a great conversation for you. So welcome to the show, Mike, Nick, and Mike.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice to see you guys. We usually have, to our listeners, our weekly meetings, and it's not ever really recorded. So it's nice to be on the podcast together and have but the majority of the CT crew here.
Yeah.
So I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your unique individual background so our listeners can really get to know the minds behind CivilTalk.
Sure. Should I start?
Perhaps?
Yeah. So yeah, Mike Castor. I'm a software developer with the CivilTalk organization. I do what we would call a full stack developer. So I do everything from the front end to UI integration, UI development to back end API development, database schema design, everything. I also have a somewhat unique background in that I used to be a technical recruiter before I learned to code. So I also worked at Facebook as a technical recruiter and managed a university recruiting team for Facebook's Seattle-based office. I also, fun fact, I'm also a musician. I have a degree in music, percussion, performance, and also recording engineering. And I still dabble in music to this day. So,
rock on. Mike?
Yeah, I'm also a full stack engineer with 9 years of experience, and I also have a background in computer science, and I lived in different countries. It's just like 3 years that I moved to the U.S. I've been living in Canada, Ukraine, and Iran, and I'm actually coming from different cultures as well. Over the past course of the years that I've been working with other companies as a freelancer, a contractor, to help them build their software, and they're bringing their ideas to life. It's been a very interesting journey so far. So I've always been too much involved and into software and web and mobile apps. I'm also a sports enthusiast. I play soccer and I've tried a lot of different sports. So that would be my hobby as well.
Very cool.
Pass it to Nick.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? I'm Nick Nartaro. I'm from the DC area, and I handle our mobile side of the app. So what you see on the App Store and the Google Play Store, so Android and iOS. And I have a little less of a traditional software background. I was originally in school for education, and then left to pursue software development through a coding boot camp, and then did a lot of freelance projects before finding a home here at CivilTalk. And it's been an awesome ride so far.
Amazing. Yeah, we have a very talented staff. So before we dive into the features and the engineering side, can one of you guys share the mission and vision behind CivilTalk? I think it's really important to sort of let our listeners know what exactly we're trying to do first before we dive into the structure of CivilTalk?
Yeah, sure. I can hop in. So the mission and vision of CivilTalk is to empower leaders, whether from an organization level or the individuals within that organization, to practice emotional intelligence and responsibly use AI to enhance and empower everything that they're doing in their personal lives and their workplace lives.
Yeah.
The problem that CivilTalk is trying to solve is comes at the root of that is from all the amazing amount of change that's been going on in our world in the information age with the invention of the internet, the everything changing very quickly, and now with the proliferation of AI-based technologies, we feel like we need to make sure that we're staying grounded in emotional intelligence and making sure that we're maintaining a sense of humanity in all of this amazing technology that we're trying to figure out how we fit in as humans into that technology.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I really love about CivilTalk as well is, it's ORGtalk. So ORGtalk is making sure that organizations have a community that feels like theirs. So CivilTalk is not just about our mission, but it's also about making sure each organization and company and leader feels like when they come onto the platform, it feels like theirs. Can you talk a little bit about a really big feature on CivilTalk, which is ORGtalk, and just the importance of that?
Yeah, sure. So CivilTalk has a few different sort of subsets that we sort of offerings. One of those is a technology arm, and that's what me, Mike, and Nick work on directly, and that is the ORGtalk platform. And so that's like a web-based and native mobile experience where any organization, it could be a company, it could be a nonprofit, it could be an institution. Like, for example, we did a 2-year pilot with University of Connecticut, and that's where we actually sort of honed a lot of how this platform works. So any company organization could sign up to CivilTalk's ORGtalk platform, and they would have their own private community. So It would be, for example, like if it's University of Connecticut, it could be like, that would be UConn Talk, and only the people that are in, it's an invite only community where there's, people can practice these skills and communicate and really foster a culture that they want to craft the culture to be, like, hey, this is how we want to talk to each other. This is how we should treat each other. This is how we should handle tough conversations. This is how we should handle business problems. And then we get into like how the ORGtalk platform actually does that and the features.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, I don't really think there's another app out there that is truly focused on let's learn how to communicate with each other. I mean, we have Discord or we have like Slack or something like that. And, anyone can go on there and create their own community. But I love CivilTalk's mission in that every community that you make, every ORGtalk that you make, it's truly focused on how do we talk to each other? How do we communicate with each other? How do we respect each other? And I think that's the biggest, most important thing right now. Even if AI didn't exist, I think that having an app like this is so credible and so important right now. And one thing I know that when we're working with UConn or other organizations, I know that they were like, I don't want to adopt a new platform. It's going to be complicated. And a big reason why we wanted to have this conversation today is to show organizations and companies and leaders that it's actually the reason why we have amazing people like you three is because it's a seamless integration. And if you want to go ahead and talk about that, how simple setup is and how frictionless onboarding would be for an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we learned through the 2-year pilot at University of Connecticut was that it needed to be easy. We needed to make it easy for an organization to onboard into a community, and we also needed to make it easy for the users to join, the members to join. So that had to be fast, painless, and quick for both parties. And then also like the with the content within, like, so we have the concept of courses, for example, and that also needed to be something that was easy to do. So setting up a community is very easy. We really only need a few pieces of information. We need whatever your organization's name is. So if it was University of Connecticut, it might be UConn, because you'll see in the upper left-hand corner here of my shared screen, this is a fictitious community that we've created called Thrive Together Talk. So it might be UConn Talk or Aetna Talk or whatever, Acme Talk, whatever your company or organization's name is. So we just need that. We need a contact, obviously, and it has to be real people. We need, an about and a mission and vision, something about your company. And then honestly, that's really all there is to it. I can actually set a community up. If I have that information, we can get it going in like a minute. And then we just need people. So the people part is also really easy. One of the core things that makes the community work is that it's powered by we know that it's real people, and that's one of the problems with a lot of platforms is you have anonymity, and that's where you can kind of get the vitriol and negativity, trolling that you'll find on some platforms. We do not have that problem on ORGtalk, because we believe in a large part is because everybody is who they say they are. So when you're setting up that community, we just need a first name, last name, and a valid email address. And that can be, we can take in new members 3 ways, literally, like manually send us an email with that. We trust it's coming from you. The second way would be put it into like a CSV or spreadsheet, some kind of table, and we can just programmatically add them. And the third way, which worked really well with University of Connecticut, is we can do a single sign-on integration. And that's honestly it takes a little bit of setup, but it's pretty painless and also the most secure way to do it. And then that the only people who can join would be people that have your domain. It's actually really easy.
Okay. Can you explain the roles in that organization as well? Just, the value of having, and if that even exists, the value of facilitators, contributors, and observers. Just explain how that works and how people have different access for certain things.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole idea of ORGtalk is that we want it to be a structured platform. So we assigned very specific roles to there's different roles within the community, because just like we're mirroring an organization would have, you might have a leadership. It might have people who have, who are skilled in a certain area. And those people might have a level of trust that allows them to maybe, for example, we have, alluding to one of the core features of the product is prompting. We have the role of a prompt leader. So that is a member of the community who is they're skilled in some way, and there's someone that's sort of a trusted member that would be able to create the prompts, because everything, what we learned when we first, from the very early iterations of this product, when we were first designing it, is that you want it to be structured, because you want to keep the conversations, within a certain confine. You want to kind of send them towards a direction, like a topic, a conversation about a certain thing. And having that prompt leader really does that. Yeah. There's also the role of instructor, because we do have the concept of a course inside of the platform as well. So the instructor obviously is the instructor of the course, and therefore they can sort of create the prompt, but that prompt is specific to the course. So let's say that your community is, for lack of a good, University of Connecticut, but you're running a course on sales and marketing. Your prompts, within that course are probably going to be reflected through the lens of a course on sales and marketing. So that you have that layer there, and then obviously everybody's a member. And then of course there's like an admin role, which allows the community to be managed. So that can grant and remove roles from various members of the community, update information about the community, that sort of thing. But that obviously there's only, you probably shouldn't have very many admins, but they're the necessary thing.
Yeah. I love that in contrast to an open discussion forum, because it feels, I mean, not limiting because people might see it that way, but it feels safe as well to know that you're allowing these certain people to prompt discussions that feel like a safe environment. And I think that it really does thwart trolling. Not that anyone comes onto CivilTalk to troll in the first place, but I really do love this idea of prompting in people who are granted this access, who we know would be qualified enough to prompt the community. And it kind of feels like a scholastic learning environment in that sense, which I really like. But with that being said, can you walk us through how prompts are set up, just so our listeners and viewers know just how easy it is?
Yeah, sure. There we go. So this is when you log into CivilTalk or the ORGtalk platform, this is sort of the first screen that you'll see. And this is, a demo area. This isn't anyone's real information because, like we said, it should be private. But my user has, if you'll know what role you have because it'll always show you're on the right-hand side here. I happen to have the role of prompt leader on this user. So I have the ability to create a community prompt here. And then that's really simple. This is a form like where you input a title and the actual prompt that you want to have the community respond to. You can optionally decide to publish it at a future date. So like that was a feature that was requested by course instructors. So they wanted the prompts to come out like every Monday morning, for example. You don't have to use that. You can publish it right away, but it's a feature that we added because it was an ease of use feature. The other core thing around prompting is topic tags. So you can choose up to 5 topic tags for any prompt. And what that has done is it's created sort of a graph representation of the different prompts and all the different content that's been created inside of the system, which can then later be used for some analysis, data analysis, and some surfacing insights about what your community is discussing, how they feel about certain topics. Yeah. And then the last thing I'll show in here, we can talk more about this later, is we said that this is AI powered. So we have an enhancement feature that is new for the platform, where we're going to have users be able to leverage our Clarion emotional intelligence guide to help make the prompt improve the prompt in some ways. And I think that would be an interesting thing perhaps to get into a little bit later, is like what were the design decisions on that one. But yeah, so it's actually just really that simple. And then you just hit create and it will show up here in this feed. So like here's some examples of prompts here. And then you'll notice that there's a yellow respond button next to the prompts that a user can respond to. And that sort of starts the whole conversation.
Got you. Can we go through that response and just see what that looks like for someone who wants to respond, and what CivilTalk is about is this as a response to these prompts and how we're engaging with each other. So again, it is responding human to human, but it's enhanced by AI. And I'd love to see and just to hear that process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is again, I think it might be important to just talk about a little bit more about prompts, and then I'll kind of go into that. But we kind of think of prompts in sort of 3 categories because of the use case that we're trying to support here. We're trying to help organizations become meet their mission objectives, right? And so we think of prompts in sort of 3 ways. One is like the high level, like emotional intelligence related culture, like company or organizational culture. Like, how do we think about, this high level topic, or how do we want our culture to behave? How do we want to interact with each other? So that would be this kind of prompt here on the bottom, like building emotional intelligence to strengthen collaboration. Take a moment to research, so there will be a call to action in each one of these. So like the call to action here is share one way we could apply the strategy above within our team to create more psychological safety and stronger collaboration. So it's sort of like a high level, like cultural, emotional intelligence kind of related prompt. The second category would be maybe the second one here, which is more of an operational challenge or operational type of prompt. So like something that your organization is either a problem that you're trying to solve or something that you want to improve. So like in this case, this prompt is about improving your internal processes to elevate your customer service experience. And so it's going to have, some prompt information in here and eventually get to a call to action where you're being asked to suggest one change we could make in our workflows that make it easier for us to deliver better service and get things done faster. Also point out, here's the tagging. This one's been tagged with effectiveness, been tagged with operations. This is very freeform. These are user generated tags. So your organization or community could decide to follow a specific tag hierarchy. It's very flexible, but eventually I'll get to this third type, which is more of a like maybe financial, like business growth related. So this one's innovative strategies for expense management and growth. And I won't go through the detail of that, but this one's tagged with financial growth, profitability, business management. So let's say that I'm a member and I want to respond to Adam's prompt. So I just click the respond button and I'll have a place where I can respond here. And this one, again, will also have that Clarion emotional intelligence guide to help you. And then importantly about the response, and I think maybe this is another thing that we can talk about at some point, is the emotion tagging. Right. So whenever you do any response or you're involved in any of the discussions in this platform, you're asked to tag the emotion that you're feeling or you're trying to convey through your communication here. So we have this pretty nice user interface here where you can pick an emotion here from sort of an emotion wheel type of system. And that's, again, another way that sort of validates and connects the data into sort of a graph that you can then use for gaining insights. Like, hey, like people might feel, they might feel apprehensive about the expense management and growth strategy, of that's being suggested by this prompt leader. You never know what so it's kind of nice place to talk about that. We can maybe also talk about there's a pulse report that happens as a result of getting all this data together. But actually, maybe what I could also do is there's this view button here. And what this does is it takes you to just a different view that sort of aggregates all the, let me find one that actually has responses. I think it's, okay. Is it this one? Nope, sorry, live demo.
But I hear you, it aggregates all, there we go, there's one.
There we go, just had to find the right one. Yeah, so here are a couple, here's the prompt, internal process to elevate customer service. I'll skip over the pulse report and come back to it. But then here are two responses. Like I responded, I felt amazed. And I, responded that I read about how Zappos empowers their customer service team. And then Mike also responded and he was stunned. And he said he came across an article about how Southwest improved their customer service. And then if I scroll back up here, there's this pulse report. And again, this is our Clarion emotional intelligence agent, a guide that is sort of takes a summary of all of this. It takes, it gathers all of the data, the prompt, the tags, the responses, as well as the emotion tags from each of the responses, and sort of summarizes it into a high level summary at this point.
Yeah, it's human led, but amplified by AI, and I think that's really important to dissect and understand that these are communities where people can really feel vulnerable and have open discussions. And it's because members know that on this platform is a real person, but things are summarized with AI and they're amplified with AI. And I think the biggest takeaway too is like, we're not trying to replace human interaction. We're just trying to be a space where human interaction can exist, and we can also coexist with the tools and the lovely bounty that is AI in a non-destructive sort of way. And it's, CivilTalk is designed to use AI for assistance, not as a replacement. And I love that these discussions and course prompts are designed for that. So I want to move on over to Mike, because we're getting into the AI aspects. Mike Fara. So for you as an engineer, how are you approaching this integration of AI into CivilTalk, and just what motivates you to do this work as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the integration of AI into CivilTalk starts with a really simple principle. It really should, as you said, amplify humanity and not overriding it. So me as an engineer, that means building systems that support reflection, clarity, and meaningful dialogue without trying to solve everything for the user. And my personal motivation for this work really comes from my past experiences. I spent many years working with startups where communication between teams and leadership often broke down. And projects would move fast, expectations weren't really clear, and communication between teams and the leadership was really not good.
Yeah.
So with CivilTalk, I really wanted to build something that corrected for that, and something where human insight is supported by AI in a balanced way. We're building tools to encourage people to reflect, label their emotions, and engage in civil discourse and build real alignment, really. Um, that's not just the product goal that we are pursuing, it's my personal motivation here.
Yeah. It also seems to, now that you're talking about that as well, I think everyone, whether you're really skilled at communication or not skilled at communication, sometimes it helps to have a screen in front of you as a sort of barrier between you and another person to just sort of be vulnerable. I know it's difficult to be vulnerable, especially if you're not used to it. So having a online system like this with your entire company, I think is so beneficial. And like you said, with your past experience, you didn't really, a lot of people, not just you, but a lot of people who I know, a lot of my friends, I'm sure a lot of your engineer friends, there is a huge chasm sometimes between your employer and you and expectations, and sort of places like CivilTalk, online spaces, I think really even that, that playing field and make it easier to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
So
we're basically all working remotely, and we are integrating through like systems like Slack, Discord, and we are also dealing with AI ourselves. Like we're going through AI all the time, so it's also very beneficial for ourselves. Like basically, we are trying to also eat our own dog food in a way that try to improve the civility within our team as well. So we are like, the more we get better at this ourselves as a team, I would say we can actually promote this.
Yeah, that's a good point. The more and that's a whole point of CivilTalk as well, is the more you get better at having these conversations online, the easier it might be, or it will be, to segue into real life interactions where you have those tools that you have taken from CivilTalk and can do that in real life a lot easier, especially when it's just you and your team and your organization. It's not this huge free-for-all where everyone's joining the conversation into CivilTalk. You have your own bespoke community. And the whole point is to start there, start on CivilTalk, start in this community, and then eventually take it over into real life. You've graduated into real life vocabulary, into real life sort of being able to use the tools that we can offer and do that in real life. So Nick, you led the mobile experience for CivilTalk, and you were the one who designed the emotion picker, which is awesome. Yeah. Can you talk a little about that and, just the creation of it and what you were trying to accomplish with that?
Absolutely. So I think everyone here has used, some form of social media or like, seen comments online. And I feel like a big part of communicating online is, so much context is lost when someone just makes a post or a response to something, because you don't necessarily know what's going on in their head when they make it, right? It could be sarcastic, it could be angry, it could be ironic, and, a lot of that can just go right over your head. So, when we were first coming up with this idea, Keith brought my attention to the idea of emotion wheels and how there's like, kind of like the inner circles base, the core base emotions like anger, sadness, happy. I'm blanking on some of the other ones, but they're in there. And then how those break down into, more specific forms of emotion, right? So like happiness can be like joyful, or it can be content, like there's degrees to each one. So yeah, we thought about how to like bring that into how you communicate, right? Like how do I feel in the moment when I'm like, processing this post or something? And a lot of times those emotions are usually pretty positive or maybe neutral, but if someone's making a post and they're like, man, I'm fuming right now. I mean, sometimes that comes through in how they're making the post itself, but it's also good to have like a little like a disclaimer. I'm real mad. Because particularly these days feel like, a lot of online discussion can get real heated real quickly. And maybe, seeing where someone's at before responding or trying to get in their head a little bit helps, demystify some of what people are feeling.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about the voice to text feature and designing that, and just sort of how that shapes the way people have interacted with ORGtalk on mobile?
Yeah. Obviously it's nice to be able to jot stuff down when, maybe you're on the train or in the car or whatever, traveling in a coffee shop, and, you don't necessarily have access to a keyboard or something. So it's always nice to be able to get things in that way. And I guess we're not necessarily there yet, but it would be, especially with all the AI tools that are supposedly be cool to get to the point where, you can potentially have it analyze your emotion for you. Obviously, you can sign off and be like, I concur with what it's doing here, but it'd be, I guess the goal would be to be able to have like, full analysis of like, all right, if I'm going to speak this out, how is this being perceived maybe outside of myself? Because, everyone can mean something one way, but then the interpretation of how it comes across maybe is a little different, and be, kind of neat to see that interpretation in real time.
Yeah. I think about voice to text a lot. I mean, I use voice to text on my cell phone, but I was talking to Mike about this the other day, and I was saying how voice to text on CivilTalk feels a lot different, just because we are an app and or platform that is really dominated, or we're defined by emotions, basically. And so when you're using voice to text on CivilTalk, it's just so different because it does revolve around emotions. Our platform revolves around emotions, how we're feeling vulnerable. When I'm using my phone, I use my voice to text just to, send my mom a little hi in the morning. But on CivilTalk, it's like things can get shaky and things can feel confronting. And it's interesting. So when you're using voice to text on CivilTalk and then you read it after you're vocalizing it, you're like, that's not what I meant. And, seeing it on text looks a lot different than when you're actually voicing it. So I think the voice to text feature on CivilTalk is just a different application on this platform than it is anywhere else, which I think is really interesting, because you really are getting vulnerable. You are confronting these feelings. You are confronting problems in maybe the hierarchy or the structure of whatever company or organization you're in. And so when you're speaking it into your phone And then reading it, I think this really allows users to have a pause in between what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and then pressing that respond button. And it's kind of confronting. So I love this idea. I mean, voice to text is pretty ubiquitous, but I think on CivilTalk, it really means and activates something very different.
Absolutely.
So that's why it is mentioned, because once users and organizations really use the platform, I think there's this understanding of, well, we've created an environment for topics that aren't really brought up vis-a-vis, or people feel comfortable talking to with their counterparts or with their business associates. So I think a lot of these things that we're talking about are found in other places like Facebook or Slack. And it's like, what makes this interesting or new here? There are other places that have this, but I think it's the environment in which we have cultivated that makes these tools feel and impact users very differently than they do on Slack or Discord or Instagram or Facebook. So I think that's a really important differentiation. Can we dive back into the tracking? Mike, you talked about this earlier. Could you speak a little bit about how architecting the system of CivilTalk tracks civility and emotional tone over time?
Yeah, sure. So it's basically everything related to how the data model is set up. So these the tags really do make it easy to say if I want to find other content related to operations, I can just click this and it's going to filter your whole view and give you prompts and responses, and therefore discussions on those responses related to that specific tag. And also over time, you'll be able to do the same thing with emotions. So we might find that operation, if we talk, let's use a different prompt example, perhaps. Let's try let's try a more high level, like an EI prompt, like building emotional intelligence to strengthen collaboration. We might, at the highest level, we could potentially filter the platform by collaboration and find all the content based on the tag collaboration. And you might find that there's a lot of there might be a lot of positive sentiment in that, but perhaps maybe on something else, there might be another prompt where you're getting more of a negative sentiment. So you can it does help give you a pulse report on not just the overall community, but how the community is feeling and where they stand in certain, specific issues. And these prompts are being created by people that are part of your community that you've sort of elevated to that prompt leader role. So, this could be extremely powerful for any organization, because it could really surface hey, this is how our organization, I think having the emotion tagging up front really does it's going to make it very nice to be able to see where your organization or group stands on a particular area of concern or something that you're a challenge.
Yeah, it's measurable behavior, I guess, and quantifiable behavior, which I think is really important. So leaders can step back and really analyze and see the data. Because I think even as leaders and organizational heads, I think it can get overwhelming. And that's something that's not talked about a lot either, is leading a company and leading a team is overwhelming. And I think when you have something like this, when you have AI and a platform like CivilTalk, we can be that in-between sort of thing and give you the data and give you stats to focus on so you can do what you set out to do with the company that you built, If
I could jump back in there and just talk about a specific real world use case scenario where this could be a use case for anybody. If I was a team leader and I was doing say I have one-on-one discussions with the other members of my team on a weekly basis, we're sort of tracking these are the goals that each of these individuals might have within the team for the organization, for themselves to help make impact in the organization. And it might be, there might be some specific topic that they're working on, like effectiveness, for example. If I had the ability to go into a platform, if I want to be able to go into the ORGtalk platform and sort of surface how the community in that organization, therefore, is what their sentiment is around the topic of effectiveness, then that would be a really powerful like tool that you could use in that sort of one-on-one discussion to sort of guide performance review type metrics, or like goals setting, really like setting and planning goals for like at the individual level. Also it would filter up to like the team level, or even to the entire organization, like at the C-suite level. If you wanted to set a company wide goal around something, you could easily kind of find like here's where we are now as an organization. Okay, now like you can guide where we want to go.
Yeah. Now that you're talking about that, I'm thinking about being a person and using a platform like this. And also, I think what makes what you're talking about interesting is, I think also CivilTalk is a place where you're not having to worry about sort of retribution for feeling a certain way. And you can say, well, this is this underlying problem that I individually have. And you don't really have to worry about, well, will I maybe be fired for having this opinion? You know, it's like, this is the data, this is my own individualistic experience. And CivilTalk is a platform where I can say this and like not really have to, in a respectful and civil way, because we are about civil discourse. You can still have, you know, a disagreement or an objection to something and do it in a respectful and civil way, and then not worry about retribution, not worry that is my job going to be on the line because I have a differing opinion. And I think CivilTalk sets it up so respect is always the underlying value within what we're trying to do. So I think it's like really helpful, and for people, not only the person who is saying, hey, this is my own problem, but also, as you're talking about right now, to really take a scope backwards for leaders so that they can dissect what's going on within their team.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just reflect back, I couldn't agree more. I think I do think that part of emotional intelligence is knowing, you know, what to say and how to say it, when to say it. Like, you do need to know your audience and like the context of where you're saying it. I don't think you could come in, but I think the platform and we've created a world where it's not the place where you come and troll. It's not the place where you come and like, lob, on like negativity. It doesn't feel like it. It's like it would be out of character to do that based on everything that's going on, the environment that's around it. That being said, when we first started CivilTalk, one of the main concerns that we were trying to figure out was like how to avoid that. How to avoid like having that happen. How do we avoid the problems that other platforms have had, where there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of like fighting, there's a lot of just like there's like horrible things like trolling. And we figured out that we needed to have some kind of structure to the process. And the key was the prompt leader, because it sets the tone for the conversations. Like, that conversation is always going to be around the tailored topics. And therefore you're not going to get like, a conversation about the baseball game last night. It's going to be on topic, and then within there, it actually, okay, I have a context window of this is what the conversation's about. It's also within the context of our organization. So like the conversations are going to be pretty relevant. And we've not had any problem with that. We ran a pilot with University of Connecticut for 2 years in several courses, and never one time did we feel like it got off topic. It never devolved into something negative. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Of the users, the members of the communities felt like they could be themselves. They could open up and be vulnerable in that environment based on the context that we provided in the app.
Yeah. And those prompt leaders and prompt discussers, I think, are given that role too. So for leaders too, it's like you have control over, and you know your company, you have control over who sets those prompts. And I think there's always a few individuals who you're like, I respect, or even like your HR person, you know, it can be really helpful for your HR team, and, you know, be another tool for them to sort of aggregate people's responses and make them feel comfortable, you know? So I think it's great that there are prompts. And again, it's not an open discussion where you're on here and you're like, I don't really want to hear about your kid's baseball game last night. You know, like I have a big issue right now with how I'm being treated, and I want to talk about that. Let's talk about it, you know? And CivilTalk makes it so it is a platform that can do that. And that's why I think this is so unique, because I personally haven't really seen anything like that on the market or out there yet. But I'd love to hear about all three of your own personal experience with just sort of how you view emotional intelligence now. I think we've been in this environment for a long time, and from experience working in building CivilTalk, I feel like EI, or our emotional intelligence, is at an all-time high. What do you have to say about your experience with that, working with a company that does revolve around emotional intelligence? And what have you learned about emotional intelligence on its own? I feel like EI is it's not a new topic, but it's a new topic that is making its way into the workplace. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, why you think it's important, why you think it's not important too, you know?
I can start there. I think I'll use maybe an experience. A common experience happens. We're having a team meeting as an organization, and there's maybe, we don't ever get into like open disagreements, but there can be heated debates about, I mean, as there should be in any product, you know, there's passion about the direction of the product. That's important, right? But sometimes I will have to regulate, like, hey, like, okay, I'm super passionate about the way that we integrate the AI Clarion summarization feature. Like, I really strongly feel it should be this way. And somebody else, Nick, might be like, I strongly feel like it should be the other way, right? And so, like, I do have to take a step back and regulate sometimes and say, like, hey, I'm getting a little heated here in the conversation. Remember why? Why? It's because I'm passionate, and maybe Nick's passionate too. That's great. So take a deep breath. And I've even, like, afterwards done a lot of ways that I haven't done in other organizations. After like those interactions, I've really like gone and maybe taken a walk and sort of processed my thoughts and be like, okay, how could that have gone better? Oh, okay. Yeah. Like the next time, maybe I should, like, you know, try to see the other person's perspective a little bit more. Basically, we're all human and we're all work in progress, you know? And I feel like I'm learning, but I feel like I am growing in that, in many ways, because we're all very aware of it, because this is what we're trying to make this change in the world.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to bring up a different aspect of it. Importance of emotional intelligence is that, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're working remotely, and there are many times that we are communicating through text, and there is absolutely no emotion expression in the text. And that's one difficulty. And you know, we are trying to enhance our text and post using AI. And so I'm using AI to enhance my post, to send something to you, and you would do the same to me. And there would be some point our AIs are actually talking to each other with our prompts and context. And that's interesting, but it can be times that we can be misunderstood and our emotions are not being delivered as much as it should be, and there will be a struggle. So if we could bring something that kind of humanize this communication and make things uh, more clear in a way that we can understand, and where are the times actually we can take our conversation into a call rather than just like stay in the loop of emails and text and threads of communications. We could actually like, okay, this is a time that we have to jump on a call and we have to actually discuss it in person to just prevent misunderstandings. So this is a side that we actually have to be sometimes be socially and emotionally intelligent to take an action, to just step in and get on a call and clarify all the things that potentially cause the misunderstanding. So this side of it, while we are working remotely, is very important, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I have sort of the same answer because it's so relevant to what we do for work. But on the topic of being a remote team, like we miss out on so many social cues that you would normally have if you're like in person talking to someone. Like so much of our communication it's like majority messaging based, and then occasionally we have meetings, and that's the emotional intelligence part comes in so much, right? Because you can't even on a video call you can't read someone's body language in the same way, right? Like we're usually here up or just not sometimes Keith is moving his iPad all around, so kind of hard to even see where he's out, or someone's out and about. So that so much of that goes out the window when it comes to like that more interpersonal communicating. So we've done, I think, a really good job of not really getting heated extensively with each other, which is great, right? Because we see each other so rarely. So I think working here is a unique experience, because that for sure has not been the case at some other places I work, where it's like a little more like things are a little more stressful. Not that we're not motivated to get things done here, but there's not there's not the same air of like stress that can sometimes be a part of a work environment.
Yeah, Mike, as you were talking to, thank you for that. As you were talking to, I'm thinking about the problems that some companies have or businesses have, and I think getting heated or having differing opinions is one of them. That's probably top 3, right? But I think there are other things that I've seen that I don't think about all the time, but like even niceties in an email. Hey, hope you're doing well, a benediction sort of thing. I hear that sometimes with like sometimes women in company too, and it's like, I think that it's so interesting that CivilTalk can be a place where these discussions can be open and can open up. And another thing I love about the platform is we also have not only you guys being fabulous guests, but we have amazing guests on our podcast who are very qualified to talk about leadership, to talk about how to lead correctly. And I think that it's also a really great place. CivilTalk is a great place to use those resources. If we're not making it, if the platform and the tools that you've used are not cutting it, we also have a podcast. We also have people who have joined our team, who have written books, and who can hopefully one day step in. CivilTalk is a fairly new platform, and we've built so much in such a small amount of time that are very effective, and it can only get better from here. With that being said, this as one of our last questions, how do you see the future of CivilTalk and the platform moving from here? Again, we're a fairly new platform. How do you see its evolution?
Well, the future is now. AI is real. So we definitely need to. We're focused on the problem of allowing people to be amplified with AI without the AI removing the humanity from their interaction. So everything that we're doing going forward is, I mean, we're always going to be focused on user experience, providing a great customer service experience, and a seamless onboarding experience, a seamless, support structure. But that AI integration and our Clarion emotional intelligence guide, continuing to evolve and improve that and tune it to do what we say, amplify, not replace. Yeah. And yes, I think that's the future.
Yeah, my opinion, like the timing is really right. Like we're in a right time in the right place. CivilTalk, and I think at this time that everything's virtual. Basically, everything is turning into a virtual. The human sense is being extracted from everything, like from text and interactions and everything. And CivilTalk is actually trying to keep the human and human layer and the social emotional intelligence in place and actually help people practice that.
Yeah. Great. Okay, guys. Well, one of our last questions I like to ask all of our guests before they head out is, what are some things that you do personally to help you stay grounded when things are feeling shaky for you?
I'll start the round table. I go for a walk every day. I start my day with a walk. I live in the Pacific Northwest, where you get sun some parts of the year, and it's really important to go outside even on the darkest and cloudiest of days in the winter, to go outside and touch grass. So that's the number one thing that I start my day with, is I got to go outside, get that fresh air, get that vitamin D, and also get the exercise. And if I can start my day that way, everything else seems to go smoothly. I also very much into self-reflection, like how did the day go? How did like I mentioned that a heated discussion in a meeting afterwards. I'm like, let me reflect on how that went and how it might go better next time, or like how was I feeling? And I also, this work that we're doing has bled into my personal life in a lot of positive ways too. So like, how did the interactions with my partner go? How did interactions with my parents go? Like it really has improved my life.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, I personally, like, I was lucky enough to be in a environment, work environment and personal life environment that is less heated. So like working with amazing people always like gives you a little bit of peace of mind. But like things like that happens all the time. It's just less in our case. But to me, it's just like sport activities actually keeps you like puts you totally in a different world, that you just get disconnected for a while, and gives you a little bit of relief for a while. And then when you're back, you figure out like things are not as bad as you thought, and you kind of have a better perspective of things, and things get slowed down for you a little bit. So that's how I actually approach it.
For me, working in software, we're looking at computers all day. And then, when you're done with that, you're like, all right, now I need to like text friends or pay bills, or I'm gonna watch TV. Like it's like so much screen time, which is fine. I don't mind that, but I like to occasionally, just like go out to the woods somewhere where I don't have service. I'm not tempted to look at my phone because I can't look at my phone. Obviously can't do that every day. But every week or two, even just an overnight, just out camping or something is like a good way to, disconnect just for briefly, just like no one can get a hold of me. My phone doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'll have to wait until tomorrow.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, yeah, especially for you three, you guys are always in front of your computers, you need to relax that pupils.
Yeah. I mean, I like computers, that's why I do this. But, sometimes you're like, I've looked at a screen maybe like 12 or 14 hours today. It's like a little much.
Yeah. Well, from our CivilTalk engineers, we want you on CivilTalk, but also disconnect every once in a while.
Yeah.
Disconnect from CivilTalk while connected. Anyways, Mike, Nick, and Mike, thank you so much for being here and giving us a walkthrough of CivilTalk and ORGtalk and all the features. We really appreciate you being here and for all the work that you've done and will continue to do on the platform.
Thanks for having us, Tapashi. Those were really awesome conversations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and for our listeners, we might have more as the CivilTalk platform grows. We've had a podcast with Mike. I think it was maybe podcast 4 or 5. So if you want to listen to that and sort of see the road that we've been on this is podcast maybe 32. So again, we're fairly new. If you want to take a look back at our previous guests, it's only going to get more interesting, and we're going to have more features, and we're going to gain more insight into what we're doing. So if you want to visit our website at civiltalk.com and check that out. And again, we're more than just a podcast. We are obviously, from this podcast, you can see we have a lot of tools and services that really help individuals and teams strengthen emotional intelligence, improve communication, and really build a community and culture rooted in trust and respect. Again, civiltalk.com. Don't forget to subscribe, share if you've liked the podcast, or if you don't like the podcast, please leave a response. All of your support and communication really helps us bring these conversations to life. If you have an idea of what you want to listen to in the future, please message us. We're here to communicate and collaborate and have a dialogue with our listeners. Thanks for listening, and remember to stay kind, stay curious, and keep building the culture you want to be a part of.